Hello, and welcome to Music Maps, the Rock and Roll Book Club podcast. In each episode, we use a place as a jumping off point for a conversation about music, anywhere from the obvious to the obscure.
Hello, well, I'm back with Steve Turner again. So we covered in the first part the early years and the early bands up to Green River, and now we're picking this up, the formation of Mudhoney. So you've got this period away from the scene, and you join the Thrown Ups, as you said. Mark Arn ends up joining on drums, and a crucial part of what becomes the Mudhoney DNA was developed during this period.
Sure. I hadn't realized that until I was kind of looking back and thinking about stuff for the book I was writing. I realized that, you know, Mark is not a great drummer. I was not a great guitar player. And
you don't need to be.
Yeah, but the whole theory with the Thrown Ups was the leader of the band was the bass player, Leighton Beezer, and we never rehearsed, and all what we would do, we would write down the stupidest song titles we could think of and play live shows. And our singer, Ed Fotheringham, who went on to illustrate a lot of our album jackets, of course, as well as others, but he would, we would just have these titles in front of us, and one of us would start playing something and the rest of us would jump in, and then Ed would just start making up words on the spot. It didn't always work out. You know, sometimes it was a fail, but often they sounded like songs. And that's because me and Mark started developing this way of playing where we could just kind of look at each other and know, you know, when to change to a different part, or when to stop for a break, or, you know.
So it wasn't the most serious undertaking.
No. It was
like some King Crimson.
No, it was a joke band. It was not jazz. But
so you weren't really expecting it really to go anywhere.
No, not at all. Yeah. It was just something fun to do with our friends.
Yeah.
And we could get good shows, strangely enough. I guess because me and Mark were already known from being in Green River. But it was just something fun to do, and it didn't require any effort whatsoever. So I was good with that. You know, we went in and recorded some stuff, and I gave a tape to Tom Hazelmeyer, who had already sort of started releasing records on Amphetamine Reptile, but he was still a Marine and stationed up near Seattle. And I had left Seattle and I moved up to Bellingham to go to college. And Tom decided to do a 7-inch record of the Thrown Up stuff, which I thought was, you know, ridiculous, but okay. Because what we do, we'd record in the studio and we'd just kind of find a 2-minute long bit of music that sounded like a song and kind of edit it down to that with the help of Jack and Dino. And, you know, so we put out the first single, Felch, and, you know, did a couple more singles with him. And you know, I lived up in Bellingham for a year, basically continuing my studies. And in October 1988, Green River broke up. This was like all of 87. I was out of town, basically.
Yeah, so you'd left and gone to college. Yeah. You kind of left that life behind. What got you back into this world?
October 1988, Green River broke up, and Mark called me and said, "Let's do another band." Yeah. Like, okay, I'll drop out again.
But you had that period where you were more of an observer.
Yeah.
For the first time, you weren't really participating in it.
Yeah. And the scene was growing. You know, Soundgarden was going strong. Skin Yard was happening, which was Jack and Dino's band, the producer. Melvins were coming to their end, I guess, because as soon as Green River broke up, then Mother Love Bone was formed out of the ashes of the other side of Green River and the Malfunction. So things were happening. We had a good compilation come out of all the local bands. Deep Six, it was called, an album. And I could tell things were happening. I knew there were good bands in town. Yeah. You know, there was no lack of cool, interesting bands. It's just no one else had noticed yet.
So where do you first meet future Mudhoney drummer Dan Peters?
I met Dan. I think I was living... Yeah, it was during 1987. I came down for a weekend visit. Bellingham's only an hour and a half away from Seattle, so it was pretty close.
To an American's like a 5-minute drive.
Exactly.
To us.
Yeah. And so I came down and I was staying at Mark and Ed's place probably. And there was a party and there was some musical gear down in the basement of this party. And me and Ed and Dan were jamming. I knew who Dan was. I'd seen his band Bundle of Hiss, but I'm not even sure if I'd even met him at this point. But he was just part of the same crowd that was kind of coalescing in the university district because a lot of the college kids lived there. And like Dan was not a college kid, but he lived in one of the houses with a bunch of other people. So we were kind of jamming and it sounded and felt good. When me and Mark were talking about doing a band, you know, the end of 87, we thought Ed was going to be involved too. We thought Ed was going to be playing guitar or singing, but in a real band. The only drummer I could think of was Dan. I was like, we should get Dan, you know? And so talked to Dan. Dan, me, and Ed practiced a couple times without Mark. Ed quickly decided, like, oh, hell no, I don't want to be in a real band. This is too much work. I don't want to rehearse. And so he dropped out. And Mark was, we were already talking about doing something anyway. So me, Mark, and Dan started rehearsing. And I stockpiled a bunch of song ideas in the year and a half, 2 years, I guess, that I hadn't been writing for a band. So we had lots of stuff to work on. We didn't have a bass player. We practiced a bunch in late 87. And we'd heard that we'd heard the Melvins broke up. And we're like, God, we should get Lukin, because, he was a wild man on stage and, funny guy.
So Matt had been in the Melvins,
yeah,
and now he comes to join Mudhoney.
Yeah, basically he came up, we called him and see if he wanted to give it a go. And I mean, he still lived down in Aberdeen, which is, a bit of a drive. Like, I want to say it's 3-hour drive.
Is it that far?
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that far.
It's pretty far. But he came up he was going to see some show. Dan would remember what show it was, but
it was Alice Cooper.
Alice Cooper, yes. But with somebody else opening too, like somebody else good as well. But anyway, he was coming up for a show anyway, so he came up, spent the night, and rehearsed with us. We kept telling him when the rehearsals were, and he kept showing up. So we realized he was in the band.
Yeah, so it's New Year's Day when you do this.
Yeah, so that's officially our birthday. That was our first rehearsal.
Yeah, so Mudhoney comes into being New Year's Day of 88.
Yeah.
So who came up with the name? Where did the name come from?
Mark came up with the name, and it's a Russ Meyer film, who also begat Faster Pussycat.
Yes.
And
had you actually watched the film? Or?
We hadn't watched Mudhoney, but we really liked some of the other Russ Meyer movies that we'd seen. They would show sometimes in movie theaters, art houses, and whatnot. And we'd seen a couple that thought they were great. I mean, Faster Pussycat Kill Kill is a great movie, but that name was already taken. So we liked the name Mudhoney, and Mark thought it was cool. Then it was like, once we said that was the name of the band, we were like, I hope it's a good movie at least. It would suck to like name your band after the one terrible Russ Meyer movie. It was good. It's a good one.
So SubPop co-founder Bruce Parrott is working alongside Mark.
Yeah, at Muzak.
It's an elevator music distributor.
Yes, it is. Very ironic. Like a lot of the Seattle scenesters work there.
Yeah. Were there plans to launch SubPop at this point? Or?
Well, SubPop was already a label. They'd already put out the first Soundgarden. Yeah, and the last Green River record was just coming out. Green River was already broken up when the last Green River record came out. But SubPop did that, and they were planning on getting an office and trying to actually be a real record label with the help of Jonathan Poneman. And so basically, as soon as we said we were a band, Bruce said, I'll put out the record, whatever it is. So we had a place, and so did Hazelmeyer at AmRep. So we knew we could get at least a couple singles out, no matter what it was. So basically, we didn't pay any dues whatsoever. We got good shows right away, and we had a record label right away.
So Bruce sends Mudhoney into Reciprocal Studios in April of 88 to record this new demo. So what was recorded at this first?
I know Need was, I think, because the Touch Me I'm Sick and Sweet Young Thing, 7-inch came out of that first recording, to my recollection.
Yeah, Mudslide, In and Out of Grace, a few songs that end up on the first record were there. So you were inadvertently tuned down half a step.
Yeah, we didn't have a tuner amongst us. I don't know how we managed to be in another band for like 2 years without having a tuner, but, I think it go figure.
It worked.
Yeah, but so we were tuned down a little bit, and once we figured out what we were tuned to, we bought a tuner, and that's what we stayed at for the first 2 years of the band. We kept, and then we realized this was silly. There's no reason to be tuned down half a step. It was a very arbitrary decision on our part.
So the first Mudhoney gig comes in April of 88. Because you were already known locally from previous bands and things, did that make it easier to start getting gigs for the new band?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Like I said, we did not pay any dues. We got good shows. By this point, it should be said that the main clubs were the Vogue and the Central Tavern and Squid Row.
Right.
So they were all over 21 clubs. They were Seattle had passed this law making it almost impossible to have all ages shows. Most of us had turned 21 at this point, so we started playing the bars. But there was only a couple places, and the Vogue, I think we had Wednesday night at the Vogue, and maybe Tuesday night at the Central or something that they let local bands that weren't cover bands play. There wasn't a lot of support yet in Seattle.
Yeah. It's a bit slow getting going.
Yeah, but the Vogue was great, and that's where some of the best shows were in that era, like early '88.
How long was that there for?
It was there for a while. It was a small club, and we kind of outgrew it, fairly quickly.
Who did you open for?
I believe the first show was Das Damen.
Yes.
New York-based
Yeah.
like band that they'd already been through Seattle before. We'd met them and stuff, and they were cool. You know, they're kind of fellow travelers, but from the East Coast. They had long hair at this point, you know, and were kind of grungy. They were cool.
White Zombie, I think.
And then White Zombie was the second show, another like East Village, you know, New York City band that it wasn't yet the White Zombie that most people know, you know, from their big hits and stuff. It was much more grubby, Grebo, if you will. But they were cool. Their original guitar player was bonkers. He was a weird guitar player.
Had you kept in touch with Stone and Bruce? Was everything amicable?
Yeah.
So everyone still got on?
Yeah. You know, as they were woodshedding what became Mother Love Bone at this point, you know, so they hung out at different spots than I did. You know, I had basically for the early days of Mudhoney in the 1987, I had a very steady girlfriend, and, you know, like I didn't go to see a lot of shows or anything, but, you know, Stone and those guys were definitely on the scene, kind of partying, you know.
So for any listeners that are not aware, Mother Love Bone does become Pearl Jam.
Well, two of them, to be fair. Stone and Jeff stayed together through Green River, Mother Love Bone, into Pearl Jam, and to this very day. But yeah, Mother Love Bone ended tragically. The singer passed away, like he overdosed on the Love God, as he was known.
So Sub Pop has by now this downtown building that we talked about.
Well, a little small office in a building.
In the Terminal Sales Building in Seattle. Was there an excitement yet locally for this newfound grunge scene, or was that, as we discussed, still a bit slow?
It was still building. They put out, like I said, the last Green River record, Rehab Doll, and the Soundgarden first EP, Screaming Life, and a couple of singles had just come out, like a Tad 7-inch and Swallow. And these are like bands that like were, you know, the scene was building, but it wasn't quite, hadn't like touched any kind of mainstream attention yet. But that summer of '88, we realized there was something going on because we played a show at this place. I only had a couple shows that I remember, the Boxing Club up on Capitol Hill. And there was a line around the block to get into the show. And I can't remember who else was on the bill. It was maybe Blood Circus, Swallow, and Mudhoney.
Yeah, Swallow, Blood Circus, and Mudhoney.
And like, it was a crowd. And we're like, where did these people just come from? So this
is building before anything's even been released.
Yeah, our single I don't think was out yet.
And there's a line around the block.
Yeah. So there's definitely word was getting out that something was happening, and I think a lot of the college kids, the kids that age, basically were kind of going, "Hang on, there's some cool bands in town here that's kind of happening."
Did the local media and things support it once it became known?
Not yet, not really. I mean, we had the Rocket magazine, which, you know, we always bitched about it back in the day, but in retrospect, they actually supported it as much as they could. You know, they had to, you know, put famous people on the cover to get ad revenue. It was a free magazine, but they needed to get rid of copies to show, you know how that works. But they did. You know, Bruce Pavitt had a column in it, but it was kind of relegated to like the back of the magazine, sort of, you know, like a couple pages of local stuff. But that's pretty good in hindsight. And they would occasionally put some cool stuff on the cover. And pay attention to like Green River and things like that. But it was building. Like the daily newspaper just didn't like it at all. Like we had the mortal enemy of all of us was this guy, Patrick McDonald, who was the music critic for the Seattle Times. And he just didn't get it at all.
1-star review.
Yeah. So he was, but he finally came around and started talking about it once the NME and Melody Maker started covering it, which came a little bit later.
Yeah.
But that was really, that was a big moment for the whole scene.
And I think Bruce does credit you with this first Nirvana release, Love Buzz, via the Sub Pop Singles Club.
Yeah. You know, that's funny because I'd never thought of that until he said that in print. I was like, well, I know, like, because I would go down and look, once they got the office going, I dropped out of school. I was just working part-time. So I had my days kind of free usually. So I just go down to the office and help them package up records to send out and do whatever was needed, you know, and they wouldn't pay me, but they would buy me lunch.
It's not a bad deal.
I know. For me, at that point, that was enough. So I know we were just talking about, like, because I was such a record collector already at this point, and AmRep was doing limited run singles, and they were like prized items already in the underground. You know, I think we were just talking about what if we did a series of limited singles, and it wasn't all my idea, but I was saying, like, you should do limited singles. You know, they get a lot of attention in the underground, in the fanzines and stuff. But what he added to it was like, we could get the money in advance.
Right. Yeah.
You know, he was looking at it like a guy that needs money to press the records. Like, we
it's a
get
quick
the money
fix to get some money. Yeah.
We get the money in advance, and, you know, we can keep going. But that wasn't my idea. That was them. That might have been, you know, that might have been Jonathan, because he was more attuned to business. But that was just a conversation about Rare Records at lunch.
It turned into something a lot bigger.
Yeah.
So if any of our listeners have got a copy of that, you might be in for it might be worth a few quid now. I
Yeah,
think.
probably over $10,000 at this point.
We mentioned this gig at the Boxing Club, Capitol Hill. Not long after that, you record this debut EP, Superfuzz.
Yep. We'd already recorded the Touch Me I'm Sick. It was just kind of taking a while to come out.
Yeah. So why did the band decide to make an EP rather than a full album?
That was a very popular format in the 80s. I really liked the format, like 5 or 6 songs. You put your best stuff
People
on.
forget how big singles and short form
Yeah,
media
it
was.
It was
point.
in the underground rock world. Like EPs were like that was kind of almost the main format.
Right.
Singles and EPs. And, putting 5 or 6 songs on a record, you can choose your best material. So for a debut, it made sense to us.
Yeah, I mean, I think Green River and Soundgarden had done EPs too, so there was a strong precedent for that at that point.
I should point out that after I quit Green River, they got much better. I didn't mention that part of the story. Dry as a Bone EP is a great record. Like Bruce Fairweather really helped that band and it made them much better. And they kind of coalesced with what they wanted to do.
And then this unreleased Green River album, Rehab Doll, comes out.
Yeah.
Sub Pop. How did you feel about the timing? Because the band have already broke up by this point.
Yeah, I would say that Jonathan and Bruce were pretty bummed about that. But that record was kind of a failed try at sounding commercial in a way. The production I thought was terrible. And when Green River got back together for some reunion shows, everybody involved in Green River agreed that record sounded like crap. So thankfully, it's been remixed by Jack and Dino for the reissue.
Perfect.
But because there's good songs on it, but it just didn't sound. It sounded bad. It sounded like 1988. It didn't bother me. I mean, we were just doing the next thing.
It's funny how with some records you can pinpoint when they were made.
Yeah.
And some you can't at all. But there's some records you hear and you're like, you can tell by the reverb.
The gated reverb on the drums. It's 1988. Yeah.
So the Touch Me I'm Sick single appears in August of 88. It's a run of 800 copies on toilet water brown coloured vinyl.
Yes.
So how does it fare when it comes out?
It was very wanted, very successul right away. It was kind of all the rage, right?
So it sells out instantly.
Instantly, yeah. Which was great. That was kind of like, the point of making.
That's the whole point of making the record.
Yeah. And get some attention and, so yeah, it surprised us for sure. But it was just the groundswell at this point was building. And the tastemakers like Sonic Youth were really into it.
Right, yeah.
We had those kind of people like really championing, right out the gate. John Peel, over
Peel, yeah.
UK. Yeah.
And it becomes a bit of a hit locally and it gets quite a lot of college radio play, and which in this era, the college radio play is massive.
Yeah, it was hugely important.
So if you haven't got that, no one's going to hear your record in the US. Because the US is so big. I think a lot of our listeners here in England, where you've got Peel, Top of the Pops, your classic things, but in England you can drive 5 hours to anywhere. But in the US, what was the influence for the guitar riff? Touch Me I'm Sick.
Well, in hindsight, it seems to be a Yardbirds riff almost, like happening 10 years past or something like that. But for me, as there was a garage punk band in Seattle called the Nights and Days that Rob Vasquez was the guitar player and singer of. He was an ornery older guy. He was old enough to have seen the Sonics in the 60s. That's how cool and old he was and ornery. But I loved the way his riffs were, like kind of staccato, kind of fast. He wasn't using any fuzz boxes or anything. It was more scratchy guitar tone. But I definitely drew some inspiration from his style of guitar playing. There's not a single song I could point to that would be it. But I was just kind of playing around on the guitar, like
That whole garage rock thing that we haven't really touched on here, the Sonics and all that stuff. That was obviously a huge thing previously. And
definitely.
Before that.
We were all aware of the history that the Northwest had of the Sonics and the Wailers and, all these great bands.
So we mentioned Sonic Youth earlier, and this split single appears on Sub Pop. So it's released. So the first side is Sonic Youth covering Touch Me I'm Sick, and Mudhoney cover their track Halloween. So whose idea was that?
I think that was Sonic Youth's idea. I should also say that they had Das Dahlman's guitar player do the wah-wah riff or the wah-wah solo on it. Yeah, like I said, they were instant champions of us. They really liked it. And a lot of that's Thurston. You know, he's the guy that's with his ear to the ground. Yeah, so that was just kind of a fun thing to do. I don't remember why we picked Halloween. I think maybe because we could almost turn it into a Stooges song. With Misfits lyrics.
So we mentioned Sonic Youth are very good with supporting the bands they like, and obviously they're of a pretty high stature by this point. Having their endorsements, quite key, really.
It's a big deal. During that same time, like '88, I believe they brought Dinosaur Jr. over to the UK for their first tour, and that exploded Dinosaur Jr.
So Superfuzz Bigmuff comes out October of '88 with the cover photos taken by Charles Peterson, who's obviously a key part of the visual side of the Seattle era. It becomes one of the seminal records of this whole scene. So again, how does it go down on release?
It went well. I mean, I think it was a little bit late. I think we were already touring the States and it wasn't out yet like it was supposed to be. Right. Which was a little frustrating. That happens, you know. It went great. You know, we'd already managed to get licensing in the UK and for it. And the press over here started really talking it up. Obviously, we had Everett True as a great champion of it.
He's been to us too. He played some songs on a piano at one of our events about a year ago.
The legend.
Fairly quirky stuff. But there we go.
Did he bill himself as the legend for that? Because that's what he used to call himself, the legend, when he made records.
He was playing very quirky piano versions of very unexpected songs. Obviously, the UK tour follows shortly, but first out-of-town show ends up being in Berlin, paid for by the German government. So how does all that come about?
Well, I don't even know how that came out. I don't remember. But they flew us over there.
For a festival,
the Berlin Independence Days. And it must have been somebody that, you know, Bruce had met somebody. He was very good at networking. He was a very good, networker at this point. So me, or the band, and Jonathan and Bruce, we all flew over there for 3 days in Berlin. And this is before the wall had come down. So it was crazy. Berlin was crazy. Yeah. I mean, still is kind of a wild town, but the pre-wall coming down, it was crazy. So we had a great time. Played this one show. It was professionally filmed and it's available. You can find the film of it.
Yeah, you can find this on YouTube, I think. So something else to look up.
Yeah, and we were just clowning around as parts where me and Mark are doing ballet leaps across the stage. You know, we thought it was all just like kind of ridiculous, you know, at this point.
Yeah, so back in the US, the 3-week tour comes next across the country, followed by big show at the King Street Station in Seattle. So this is again with Sonic Youth, but also Screaming Trees.
Yeah.
You end up touring the West Coast with these two bands. So how was this?
That was great. The King Street Station was kind of a big echo pit, which was great for Sonic Youth, but maybe not so great for Screaming Trees and us. There weren't very many shows there either. That was kind of a one-off. The tour down the coast, it wasn't all with Screaming Trees. Die Kreutzen did some of the shows with us. And they were obviously bigger shows. We were opening for Sonic Youth. So
I think this is the Daydream Nation album tour. Yeah. So that gives you an indication of where they are in their trajectory.
And that was a huge, huge record for them. I mean, I loved all their records, you know, up through this time and more, obviously.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
But so those were much bigger shows. And again, the right people were seeing us because Sonic Youth.
One thing I've really picked up on when I talk to people in America is that in the big cities, so New York, Chicago, LA, you get the big, you're kind of hailed as heroes and it's a big gig. But in the smaller towns, sometimes there's only 30, 40 people there. Was that similar for you or on this first tour on your own shows?
On our own shows, yeah. We did good in some places, other places not so good.
So the band are known in the major cities, perhaps?
Chicago was great for us right off the bat.
Yeah.
New York.
Chicago's always...
Yeah, Chicago's a great place to play. Still is. It's always one of those main cities. But we would play some, you know, Kalamazoo, Michigan, you know, on a Wednesday night or whatever, you know, like the friends of the opening band would be there and maybe a few people that had heard of us, you know. But also we were going to a lot of college towns and we would go and, you know, be interviewed on the radio before the show. And that stuff really helped a lot too. Even if we were kind of jerks to some of the poor DJs that had to interview us.
Oh, right, okay.
We were young.
We haven't been like that today.
We were younger then. But, you know, so it was hit or miss. Yeah. But Texas was always good.
All right.
Yeah.
Texas was good for you.
I guess the first time we played Texas, it was opening for Sonic Youth. And we met a lot of people, you know, people that were heroes, you know, Tim Kerr from the Big Boys and Poison 13.
Because that goes all the way back. We did an episode about David Bowie on the Ziggy Stardust tour, and they were treated like heroes in LA, New York, but in Kansas City and Texas, people were like, "Who the hell? Who the hell is this guy? Who's this guy with the crazy hair?"
Yeah. Have you read the Mott the Hoople's Diary of a Rock Star book?
I would like to.
It's Ian Hunter. He
yeah.
wrote it. Omnibus reissued it recently. But yeah, I just read it last year because it was one of the books I got free. And it's really good. He wrote it in 1974 about their 1972 tour of the U.S.
It's quite an early music book.
Yeah, it's really, really good. That man can write. He's a
There's a recommendation, the Ian Hunter Mott the Hoople book.
Yes.
Look that up on Omnibus.
Yep.
So moving into 1989, there's a gig, January the 6th, at the Satyricon Nightclub in Portland. And it's notable for the appearance of Nirvana. So it's their first gig outside of the Seattle area, I think.
Well, the thing I remember the most is that the marquee above the club said Mudhoney and then Nirvana, N-I-R with a space, V-O-N-A, Nirvana. And so we got a kick out of that. And I know I took a picture of it, and I could not.
Find it.
I never found it. I think I will find it. And like the Satyricon was kind of Portland's cool club, It was their punk club.
So this is the metropolis of Portland.
Yeah, but it wasn't all ages. It was a bar.
Right.
But it was a great seedy club that also served Greek food. Whatever
Sounds
that
great.
the meat being sliced off.
There are no gig venues in England that serve Greek food. I can guarantee that. Was it the Vogue where you first saw them?
Yeah, I saw the show. It was SubPop Night or whatever.
Blood Circus.
Yeah. And Blood Circus was a great early band that peaked early and then disappeared very early as well. But they were a great band for their brief moment in time.
Yeah. There's always bands like that.
Yeah.
In any of these scenes, there's bands who kind of get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, they definitely got lost.
But obviously, you'd already known Chris since high school. Did you get on with Kurt Cobain?
He was very shy. I never really got to know him very well.
You played a Fender Jaguar like yourself.
But that was also, Tom Price from the Human played one, which is why I had one.
Right.
So it was a trickle-down thing, I think.
Yeah. Again, he was a big fan of Superfuzz too. I think he's on record saying was one of his favorite records.
I think I've seen a list of his favorite 100 records or something like that.
Do you remember anything about the original drummer, Chad Channing? Because he's someone who gets kind of lost in...
He was great. He's a super nice guy. He's still around, still playing in bands. He does not age.
Right.
Like the pictures of him.
He looks the same.
I know, I'm like,
oh.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Chad anyway.
Yep. So. No, he's a good guy. I don't see him very often because he lives on the other side of the water outside. I mean, I don't even live in Seattle anymore, but...
He's still in the area, though.
Yeah, but he's over on, I think still on Bainbridge Island.
So by now, Soundgarden have signed to A&M, Mother Love Bone, which becomes Pearl Jam, signed to Polygram. Mudhoney were never on this kind of trajectory.
No, we're doing great with Sub Pop and the Glitter House in Europe and stuff. Tupelo Records, I think it was called.
Yeah,
in the UK. We didn't see any reason to move from where we were. Through the course of 1989, we recorded the self-titled record, and we toured a lot. We were very self-sufficient. I didn't think of anything that
still are now.
Yeah, I couldn't think of what a major label would offer us that we needed, except possible, eternal debt, like a lot of bands.
But you wouldn't realize you had the debt for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Until you've wrapped up all the.
Yep.
You've had all those limos.
It's the band The Church, the Australian band.
Right. Yeah.
They had that huge hit in the 80s, right? And they toured America and tried to make it big and all that, and they got somewhere. My ex-girlfriend was dating their guitar player back in the early 2000s, and they still were in debt to their major label because they took tour support.
Yeah.
It's so they were on these buses tootling around America, not realizing that all this was coming out of their royalties.
So this now iconic melody maker, Everett True article, comes up about the Sub Pop 200, and this leads to Mudhoney becoming the first Seattle band to come to the UK. So we touched on this earlier, but as a Northeast native, let's start with this first gig in Newcastle.
Uh-huh.
So what do you remember about arriving in the UK, in the northeast of England?
Well, we were very excited.
Yeah.
We were...
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, we were young, very excited, and, drinking a lot of beer. And we discovered the Newcastle Brown Ale.
Yeah.
when we got to Newcastle.
I got friends in America that drink that.
Yeah, no, it's very
You can
popular
get it in the
everywhere.
US.
Yeah,
You can get it in the US.
But it was just so good, like because we drank the cheapest beer possible in Seattle. This is before Red Hook and all the fancy Seattle beers started showing up, microbrews and all that, you know. But yeah, we were just very excited about being somewhere and seeing Sonic Youth again, our pals.
Was Thurston Moore drinking the Newcastle Brown Ale?
He was drinking something. Because I'm pretty sure that's the only time I've ever seen Thurston appear to be drunk.
I can't imagine Thurston drunk.
He was really excited too. Like he was having a good time. We were all having a very good time.
So the kind of Newcastle of that era is quite black and grey. It's before. I mean, the city. I was in Newcastle over the summer. It's been regenerated significantly now, but back then it was
very grimy. It was like Birmingham. It was grimy. And we were also told that there was basically an insane asylum full of people addicted to Nuki Brown.
But you get the typical Northeast big crowd reaction from the audience for these early shows.
Yeah, and because we'd been hyped up in the press by this point, and so
the audience are very keen.
They were already going crazy before we hit a single note. So we hit our first single note, and Mark immediately just walked out into the crowd, like on top of the crowd.
I think the venue, the Riverside, is known. I think there was a fight there at Liam Gallagher of Oasis. They were playing a show, and someone jumped on the stage and punched him. It happened at the same venue.
Oh, nice.
About 5 years later.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it was. That show was very wild. Yeah. It was memorable.
It's a memorable one.
Yeah.
So there's some gigs with Sonic Youth, some without.
Yep.
It's quite an extensive tour, 9 weeks.
Yeah, it was long and brutal.
11 dates in Holland.
Yeah, because our booking agent was...
Who plays 11 shows in
That's what we were wondering, because we would play one show, Arnhem or something, and there'd be like 30 people there. Then we'd drive 30 minutes, literally, to another town. We're like, really? This is the next show we're playing?
So the tour goes a bit long.
Yeah, it was overly long, but, there's plenty of highlights of it, because it was everything was new to us.
Played a squat in Italy.
Yeah, at Bologna, which is awesome. I fell in love with the dirtiest girls ever because it was a dirt floor venue, squat. And they're just these beautiful Italian women, but they're literally like, covered in dirt and grime, like hobos.
So
beautiful hobos.
So Mudhoney are also the first Seattle band to record a Peel session. I think they beat Soundgarden to the punch by about 4 weeks.
Yeah, because Soundgarden was over there at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Was John Peel known back in Seattle?
Yeah. Peel sessions,
So this was a big thing.
Yeah, those records.
Because it's a huge thing for English bands.
Yes, definitely. It was a huge thing for us because I'd already had several different bands Peel session, 12-inch EPs that all came out. They all looked kind of the same. I had the Ruts, Stiff Little Fingers, the Damned. The Damned one is really good. The first Damned.
Some of them are better than the record.
Yeah, the first Damned one is just fantastic.
And I think on the topic of Mott the Hoople, I think an ex-member was involved. Was he the engineer?
Buffin. I think that's his Buffin?
Dale Buffin Griffin.
Yeah, Buffin. Yeah, he wasn't having it. He did not like what we were up to.
He wasn't into the Seattle.
No, he just thought we were a bunch of idiots.
So following in the footsteps of the likes of Jimi Hendrix, the Walker Brothers, Mudhoney take off in the UK before the US. Tell us about this gig with Soundgarden at the School for Oriental and African Studies. This is in London.
Yeah, this is after we'd already done the continent, basically, when we came back to England to do a few more shows on our own without Sonic Youth. And most of the shows in Europe weren't with Sonic Youth. We were on our own. It was really just the UK.
They weren't doing 11 shows in Holland.
No. But so we had this, we didn't know what it was. I mean, it was a London gig, but we were told it was going to be a pretty big show. People were pretty excited about it, And we were excited because it was with Soundgarden, and this is the only moment in time where they had to open for us. It wouldn't have been able. They wouldn't have been opening for us. Yeah, one-time deal in Seattle. We would still have been opening for them. But which isn't a big deal. Like there wasn't like egos involved as far as I was aware. But it was just like cool to see the guys and have a show with Soundgarden. That might be the only show we ever played with Soundgarden.
Yeah, I think.
No, that's not true. We did a few festivals with them in like '96 or something like that over here.
Reading Festival.
We did some festival in Ireland with them as well. Because I remember walking up the street with Kim.
Flame Castle.
Maybe.
Electric Picnic.
I don't remember.
So that's one of the big ones there.
It was kind of a group tour, like White Zombie, Soundgarden.
Right. Yeah.
Us,
the Bills. Yeah.
But I remember walking down a small road in the countryside to find a pub to get a pint of Guinness with Kim.
An authentic Guinness.
An authentic, we're going to go find one.
So this gig at the Oriental and African Studies, which is, so, to me, such a weird place to do a show. But the stage collapses, there's a riot, stage invasion, makes the front page of the press.
Yeah.
It was this kind of thing.
It was chaos. It's like the stage, there was a stage, but it was a pretty janky stage. And then in front of the stage where the monitors are, it was literally just like fold up tables that had the monitors on them. And again, we hit the first couple notes or something. I think both me and Mark jumped off the stage with our guitars, and people were just going crazy. It was chaos. And I can't remember exactly how Mark phrased it, but he basically invited the entire crowd up on the stage. And a lot of people took him at face value and started climbing onto the stage. And the monitors were the first stuff to start collapsing. And Keith Cameron was right up there trying to hold the stage together and hold the monitors up.
He wasn't joining in with the riot.
No, he was on our side. He was on the stage trying to stop things from collapsing.
Yeah, shout out to Keith. Has got a great book about Mudhoney.
Yeah,
Keith
yeah.
Came out a couple of years ago. We did the event here at Rock and Roll Book Club up in Walthamstow with Keith. So let's give a little plug to his book. So let's just round this out with this SubPop showcase at the Moore Theatre, Seattle, June the 9th, 1989. Was this the coming out party in the US?
This was where it was, I mean, it had already been building, but this was quite a gamble on Sub Pop's part.
This is a big venue.
It's a pretty big venue, and we hadn't gotten there yet.
So it's 2,000 people.
Well, not quite 2,000. I think more like 1,500 or something, but it's a good size
It's
theater.
a good size, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not, we played their opening for the Dead Kennedys as Green River back in '84. But, I was skeptical that we were going to get that many people. It was, us, Tad, and Nirvana.
Yeah, what a bill.
Yeah, it should be legendary, I guess, because people showed up. And you're like, whoa, it actually happened, and then it was definitely, that was kind of the culmination of the buildup. It was like, okay, well, now it's going,
I imagine there's a lot of people who would see this poster later and be like, how did I not know about this show? It's like at the old Reading Festival, there used to be a guy who had all the posters laid out for every year. And in 1990, Nirvana are opening, and in 91, they're headlining. It could be 91 and 92, but anyway.
Yeah, because I was at the 92 one, the big one.
Yeah.
That was the big one.
Yeah. So in 91, they're opening the bill, and in 92, they're headlining.
Yeah.
It's like from bottom to top in a year. And I remember people when I was there in like 96, 97, and people were looking at the poster and they were like, look at Nirvana on at like 11 a.m.
Well, we did the UK Lame Fest.
Yeah,
as well, like in '89, and that was the same bill. Ad and Nirvana had been touring Europe together at that point. It was just the one show in London. I don't remember where that one was, but it was crazed. I can't remember if Tad actually dove off the stage or if he was threatening to. But we were like, no.
The Astoria.
Oh, the Astoria, okay.
3rd of December '89.
Yep.
Got knocked down to build a new train station.
No.
So the Astoria is no more.
That would have been our second tour over here.
Yeah.
Then.
Well, there we go. So we'll get on to, if we ever talk to Steve in the future, maybe we'll pick that up and go a bit more into that. So thank you to Steve. It's been brilliant. So
yeah, it's been fun.
Books on Omnibus, so you can go out and get it. Right, Mark, you were not available for this recording, but you still have to answer the 3 true or false questions about Mudhoney. So first one. Charles Peterson, photographer who documented the whole Seattle scene, he has a daughter named Laika after the camera. True or false?
Sounds like a nice name, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd rather be called Laika than Hasselblad. So I'm going to say yes, that's true.
True, yeah. What a fantastic name.
Actually, as I said, Hasselblad, I thought I can imagine someone in Sweden being called, hello, my name is Hasselblad. So yeah, Laika, good name.
Yeah, very good name. Mudhoney frontman Mark Arm is credited with first saying the word grunge to describe the music. True or false?
I'm going to say false. Usually someone like John Robb would claim this. He claims he invented Britpop, very contested. Or Everett True, previous...
We do talk about Everett on the episode, so he is discussed quite a lot.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to this one, so I'm going to say false just because I am.
It's true. So in Seattle fanzine Desperate Times, I think as far back as 1981, apparently,
Okay.
Mark Arm did describe the music his band played as pure grunge, pure noise. So there we go. That's the origin of the term grunge. At the end of each episode, we each recommend something you've liked for a long time or a recent discovery. Would you like to go first today, Mark?
I've been listening to the podcast by Andrew Luke Oldham.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I listened to a few of these to research.
Sound and Vision. I think he stopped doing it a couple of years back, but he's just great. He's got a great broadcasting voice for a start. And yeah, just the things he talks about I found fascinating, little insights. So yeah, I listened to the Gerard Mankiewicz one. That's very good. He speaks to Johnny Marr. So yeah, check it out. Andrew Luke Oldham, Sound and Vision. And of course, if you haven't yet read them already, a couple of the very best music biographies there's ever been, Stoned and Stoned 2.
I have made moves to try and get Andrew onto the podcast, so let's see if that comes to anything. There is a possibility of that happening. So let's see if we can go over Stoned, one of the classic music books. That would be a perfect episode, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, brilliant.
I'm going to recommend John Lurie, The History of Bones. Have you read this?
Oh, fantastic book.
What an amazing book this is. So this is the ultimate document of the 80s New York downtown Lower East Side scene. This book's just fantastic. So yeah, get out there and read it.
My other thing I will recommend is squirrels. I'm a big fan of squirrels and opossums.
Squirrel's your favorite animal?
It's definitely one of my all-time favorite animals. They're bonkers. I feed them off my back porch, and
the gray ones or the red ones?
We only have the gray ones in Portland.
The red ones here are quite unusual.
Yeah, there
are too many red.
Yeah, there's some beautiful ones. I saw a couple red ones in Germany and a black one too. And the black ones, yeah, I've only ever seen those in Chicago, of all places. But yeah, squirrels.
Yeah, I'm a fan of squirrels. Sadly, my mum's cat, William, kills them and bites their head off.
My cat is friends with the squirrels.
Right.
They boop noses
a lot
sometimes.
nicer.
They're just like, hello.
Sounds a lot nicer.
Because, the cat, I don't care. I don't want the peanut.
There was a period where they were friendly with a fox, which I quite liked.
Yeah.
Because I'm a fan. There's a lot of foxes here in London.
Uh-huh.
You see foxes
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, we don't have... I've never seen a fox in Portland.
I saw like 2 last night walking home.
Nice.
I think mine cats, foxes, hedgehogs.
Yeah, hedgehogs
love
are
a hedgehog.
awesome. Yeah, those are great.
They're really fast, aren't they?
Yeah.
You've seen them moving.
They're cool.
Like in the forest.
We don't have hedgehogs either. But opossums, we get I haven't seen one in my yard the last couple of years, sadly, but they don't live long. They're really a sad animal. They're so sweet and really good for the ecology and everything. And they only live 2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I think foxes are only 4 to 6.
Yeah, squirrels can live 12 years, but they usually get run over by a car instead.
Let's try not to think about that anyway.
Right.
Although I wasn't there, I didn't get to see the show. Big thanks to Steve Turner for giving so much of his time. Mud Ride, the book is out through Omnibus. Well worth a read. So big thanks to Steve.